Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding Mountain. And today I'm going to do a few sets of one-legged squats in the garage. Now, I know I've had somebody comment, they said they never see me train legs. Well, lately you haven't seen me train legs, although I have been training them. It's just that it's not always the most efficient thing to speak in between sets after training legs and stuff. So a lot of times I'll avoid it when it comes down to video, right? I'll train legs and I don't have to worry about catching my breath to basically talk and do these long-winded sort of stuff. I just concentrate on just getting my sets done and go from there. But today I'm going to do some one-legged squats. And a lot of times I'll also do squats as well. A lot of you guys know that I do squats quite a bit. But the other reason why a lot of times you don't see me film a lot of my leg training is that I just have to fend off so much trolling comments based on what people think they know is the truth about training. And they'll assume that you got a parallel squat, otherwise you're not doing it right. You know, just all this BS and all this stuff I have to fight off. So sometimes I just avoid that whole trolling sort of situation and I just don't even put my leg training on the internet that often. Here and there I do, but not as much, right? Because I find a lot of times people get distracted by minute details instead of understanding the general premise of what I'm trying to teach here. And the truth is that depending on your bodily dimensions, that will dictate how you should move for each exercise. And never is that more prevalent in the squat, right? So yes, there's some general truths around squatting, but it's not necessarily as dogmatic as people would lead you to believe, right? They'll apply powerlifting rules all the time, but in the end, they don't think about, you know, what's best for each individual. And that's really what this channel is about, is well, what's best for you. Sometimes deep squats are best for you. If you're more vertical squatter, or if you have the bodily dimensions to support that, you're not feeling the tension in the joints. But if you're a person that bends over a lot, you have long femurs and so forth, then a totally different technique will be applicable for you. And I proved that with my bodybuilding career, and I built great legs, great bodybuilding standards, had great knees, everything when I squatted a certain way. But then when I started to go too deep, then I started to notice knee pain right away and problems, right? So it's really based on you embracing your own individual situation and finding out what's right there. And of course, always increasing in flexibility where you can and trying to improve where you can, but also accepting the limitations that sometimes are unchangeable, you know. So, but anyway, today I'm going to do the one-legged squat. And the reason why I love the one-legged squat is one of the questions I had asked in the comments was, do you ever take time off of lower back training? Meaning that when you do your high frequency training, do you notice that your lower back gets fatigued because you're training back some days, like bent over rows? Other days you may be training squats or Romanian deadlifts. And then other days you may be doing some sort of, you know, shoulder work, like standing overhead presses and stuff. And do I notice that the lower back gets tired or fatigued from that? And my answer to that is yes, of course. And that's why there will be days where maybe I'm doing a chest, back, and arms day, where I'll just do lat pull downs, or I'll be doing a machine row of some sort, or, you know, a strap row, like a row with the strap, the TRX strap and stuff, or just a one arm row, you know, that sort of thing. So I take the lower back out of the exercise quite a bit, and I'll be doing just the standard sort of chest stuff, and then maybe some, you know, bench incline curls, right? Doing some incline curls on the bench. And this will give my back or my lower back a rest for one day, and then I can use my lower back in exercise the next day or whatever. But even on leg days, when I go to the gym, of course, at home it's a little bit more difficult, but when I go to the gym, I would do a leg press day instead of squats, or even one-legged squats. Like one-legged squats are easy on the lower back, comparatively speaking, to squats, but there still is some lower back being used and some stabilizers in there and so forth. So what I would do on days that I didn't want to hit the lower back and I'm training legs is that I would do primarily something like a leg press. And I would just do high rep leg presses or heavy, whatever. But that would take a lot of the stress off the lower back and give my lower back a break. The other thing you could do is a belt squat. If you have a belt squat at your gym, that's actually pretty good. And then a lot of other people, they'll do hack squats. But I found that hack squats were extremely hard on my knees. But again, that has to do with myself and my own individual situation and how I'm built. I always found the hack squat was really hard on my knees. So that's an exercise that never really worked for me, right? But you know, that might work great for you, and that might actually help you get a lower back rest as well as get some good leg training in. But yeah, don't feel bad. If you need to take a couple days off where you're not really training lower back stuff and you find that it's getting overtrained, yeah, just feel free to leave it out and choose exercises where they aren't so lower back dominant, right? So yeah, here's the one-legged squat. I'm not gonna go heavy today. I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna do a plate aside, but I'm just gonna warm up the groins, right? I did some Romanian deadlifts yesterday, and hamstrings are nice and tight, feel pretty good. Nothing too extreme or anything, but feels good. And then I did squats the day before, funny enough. It's kind of funny that somebody asked whether I'm training legs or not, because trust me, you don't get an ass like this if you're not training some sort of legs. You know, this is pure squat ass. That's what it is right there. Badonkadonk City, eh? So yeah, there's your answer. So he's got an ass like that. They're probably doing some legs. Now the nice part about one-legged squats is that they not only help you put on muscle, I mean, as far as they work the quads, they work the hamstrings, they work the adductors, but they also help stretch and rehabilitate the hips and help the hips both move properly. So it's not one of those exercises that you have to go heavy in. You know, you could do them lighter like I'm doing today. Like I've been heavy with these as well, but I find sometimes they're great as a, let's just say a movement primer, where they help your body find the proper groove and the balance. So that way when you are squatting and stuff, you're let's just say recruiting the right muscles, and certain muscles that hinder the movement start to get stretched out as well. So each person will have a different sort of movement pattern as well with the one-legged squat. Some people feel compelled to you know, touch the back knee to the ground and stuff like that. I don't. I just basically keep the weight mostly on the front leg and do the standard range of motion that I usually use around leg training, right? But I find this exercise really complements a squat routine or a two-legged sort of movement routine. And of course, I love all the variations such as walking lunges, right? Or one-legged squats on the Smith machine. Like that's a nice variation as well. And each one will hit different areas. And as you use this movement that looks pretty much the same as all those other ones, you're going to see that you have quite a bit of a different recruitment pattern depending on which movement you're doing, even though they look quite similar. So yeah, so if you haven't incorporated one-legged squats into your routine, the only thing I will say is that when you first do it, make sure you go super light. Even just body weight at first to get your groin and different muscles used to it or acclimated to it. Because I remember when I first started doing one-legged squats when I was around 22, I was used to doing 3-plate, 4-plate squats, that kind of thing. And then I automatically went into a plate aside with one-legged squats, and my groin wasn't ready for it, and I kind of pulled something. So the bottom line is that you can pull a muscle at first when you're not used to it, right? So you want to make sure that the body gets used to or acclimated to the stretch in the groin area and all the adductors and so forth. And then from there, you can start working up with weight if you feel guided to. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll do both legs and then go back to the first leg again. Oh, that burns. There you go, that's one set. Now you don't have to go back and forth like I just did all the time, but that could be a way of getting some pretty good intensity. Mountain. So a question that was asked in the comments was about what is harder, deep squats or, partial rep squats. And the truth is that a lot of times people will say what's harder, meaning what can you lift more weight with, right? And of course with a partial squat, you can lift more weight. Yes, that's absolutely true. But if you do a partial range squat with heavier weight and you take that set as close to failure as you can, or if you bounce off the bottom on your joints with a lighter amount of weight and take that to failure, there's a lot of people that would say the partial range squat is actually harder on certain muscle groups than the full range. And the full range may be harder because it's more awkward, right? So there's a different reason why the movement is harder. So before you, get mad about whatever I'm saying here, I'm just saying, like, if you're doing full range or partial range or whatever it is, no matter what it is that you choose, make sure that the technique is actually harder on the muscle. That's what's going to give you the gains. It isn't about what's just relatively harder, like, which movement hurts your feelings. You know what I mean? Like, which movement makes you really uncomfortable. It's like, where are you uncomfortable? If you're uncomfortable in the joints, that's not going to be good. If you're uncomfortable in the muscles, that's going to be good. That's basically where you want that tension and that intensity to exert itself. And that way you'll get more muscularity, right? Now, the other thing is that a lot of times people will look at squats and they will say, oh, it's all about the angle around the knee. And that will dictate what range of motion you're using. And I've had people over the years talk about this over and over when they watch me squat. Like, I know I'm just doing one-legged squats today, but when they watch me squat, I bend over quite a bit. But never, not one of these people, not one of them, these blind people, because they're all freaking blind, would ever say, wow, his knee's not bending a lot, but boy, is there a lot of range of motion around the hip because I'm bending over a lot. So there's a lot of stretch in the hamstring. But for some reason, that doesn't matter to these people. All they think about is the stretch around the knee and the quad when they're thinking about the squat. And that's false, right? Just because there's more range of motion in one area as opposed to another doesn't mean it's worse or less of a squat. It just means that you're distributing the force differently. And that is also going to be based on the individual's needs, right? No pun intended around knee needs, right? So anyway, just things to consider, all I'm trying to do is open people's minds to look at what's really happening instead of just project and look at one small piece of what's happening and miss the entire big picture altogether. And when you miss the big picture, that's when you start to make false leaps of logic. And that's what a lot of people on YouTube are making all the time. A lot of the guys in the comments, especially the beginners and intermediates, they'll look at something like that and they'll falsely accuse somebody of cheating or not doing something right, but not even taking into account that this person's actually doing something really right for different areas of the body or for themselves based on the way their bodily dimensions are playing out. So that's all I got to say about that. Motion. Boom! Okay, it's like Pac-Man. So yeah, I had an interesting discussion today with a guy at the coffee shop. He's looking for a workout program and he's a friend of a friend or whatever, and basically he's talking about how he just needs to have a workout program And of course, there's millions of workout programs for free on the internet. You can find all sorts of people, you know, they have different programs that you can try and so forth. And he said, well, what's the point of a trainer then? What's the point of having a trainer or somebody to guide him through the process? And I'd say, you know what? He's right when it comes down to just programs at face value. But when we start talking about you as an individual and how you may be different than somebody beside you, right? Like your body type is different, your injury history is different, all that kind of stuff's different. Now, a personal trainer or somebody that has the awareness to recognize your individuality, that then starts to make sense. But if somebody's working with you and they're just giving you a standard program that they give everybody, not making adjustments based on what they see is happening with you over the long run, then they're not really personal training. They're just basically photocopying or using some sort of AI robot to write you up a program, but it has nothing to do with your individual needs, right? So really what I'm trying to do, and I think a lot of you guys are actually doing this already if you're watching this channel, but is to get you to pay attention to certain things and then use that as a way to start the conversation with the body and make adjustments based on what's happening. And if you have something here happening, then you make an adjustment over there. And if you have something here happening, then you make an adjustment over here. Like the fact is that depending on where these forces are playing out will depend on how you adjust an exercise in order for it to fit your needs and to not injure you. And understanding this is integral, and that's where a good personal trainer or a good trainer will help you, and they'll basically be with you in your experience of the movement, as well as trying to teach you a proper technique and also overcoming your limitations that are imposed instead of genetic, right? Because the big mistake a lot of people make is that they think they can make anybody into some sort of idea they have in their head. So it boils down to Jack Reacher. I don't know if you guys saw the series on Amazon with Jack Reacher, how he was trying to fit that corpse into the trunk. In order to do so, he had to break the guy's legs backwards in order to fit the corpse in. So it's kind of like that with some of the personal training clients. People are like, oh no, you have to bend this way, even though it's clear that that person just doesn't have those bodily dimensions to do that, right? So in the end, basically what I'm saying is listen to your body. Don't listen to anybody else. Just take what they have to say as part of your learning process. And like I said, maybe what they're saying has validity, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's always so, So yeah, your body's always the best personal trainer. That's really my point. So yeah, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope this helps you out in your training in some way, shape, or form. If you like this kind of stuff, make sure you tune into the Natural Galant Bodybuilding podcast on Patreon. And thanks to the people here that are supporting that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Mountain.